Yo, what up YouTube? This video is about why people can't stick to their goals that they set for themselves. So at the beginning of this year, I set some pretty ambitious goals for myself, and for the first month, January, I was able to, I was killing it. I was waking up at 4, I was eating right, I was going to sleep by 8, and I'm doing all the things that I needed to do in order to like accomplish the goals that I set out for myself. And then at the beginning of February, something happened. Actually, 2 things happened in February that kind of put me off my routine. And right when that happened, I noticed that when I tried to go back to the goals that I set for myself, like, you know, the routine that I set for myself by waking up at 4 and stuff like that, I just couldn't get back on track. And this really bothered me because for the first, 40 days, 50 days where I was, meditating, waking up and doing all the things I was doing, I didn't have any issues. But then right when I broke the routine, like just for a day or 2, I just couldn't get back onto it. And that made me really like question like how like this whole thing works. And I did a bunch of research, and I think I found the answer to why people can't stick to their goals. And I'm gonna explain it to you guys, and hopefully this will kind of help you to stay on track more. And yeah, so check this out. So I'm calling this the iceberg theory of self-identity, and I'll tell you guys how all that relates to your goal setting in a second. So basically how it works is, let me just use this. So your self-belief, who you are as a person, it's kind of like an iceberg, right? You have at the top, you have what you can see, so we call that the conscious, and underneath this, what you can see under the ocean, you have the larger version of who you are, the subconscious, and it is much more substantial than your conscience, right? So this part right here is the things that you set for yourself, like goals and ideas, things like that. And over here is your self-identity. Now, when you set goals, what you're trying to do is you're trying to move this person, your self-identity, what you're capable of doing now and who you are right now, into another location, another plane of existence, right? Now, this could be like the more healthier you, this is the more disciplined you, this is the new version of you. This is the old version, and this is the new version. How this works is when you're setting goals for yourself, when you're doing things to actively become this new person who has new habits, a new discipline, new way of thinking, you're using discipline and willpower to move yourself into this new place. But the problem is you're only able to move the conscious part, the part that you're that you can have an effect on through willpower, right? Like I'm not gonna eat sugar anymore. So you will yourself to not do that. You will yourself to whenever you see like a donut or like ice cream or whatever, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna eat that. I'm gonna use my willpower to not do that. But the crazy thing that happens is your willpower can only do so much. So it's like kind of like physics. Your willpower gives you a certain amount of energy to go to this new thing, and you can sustain it for some amount of time. But the thing is, your self-identity is kind of like a rubber band or a chain that's attached to your willpower, right? Like your ability to not eat this thing anymore. And as soon as you don't have the energy to put into this willpower, it snaps you back to where you were. So like it pushes you back to where your old identity was. And the reason why it's doing that is because it wants to preserve itself. It wants to preserve its life. So when you go from your old self to a new self, you actually have to kind of like dismantle your old self beliefs, the things that you thought about yourself, the things that you thought about the world, how you processed information. You have to like change all of that stuff about who you are as a person, and your identity doesn't want to do that. Like any living thing, it has like a self-preservation mechanism, and it like does anything it can to kind of prevent itself from dying and becoming this new thing. And the reality is you actually have to kill this negative or old identity that you have in order to become this new identity. Now, sometimes when people go through like really painful situations like a divorce or like a death in the family or like getting a new job, something where like they fundamentally can't go back to how they were before, and then some of these chains get broken and this self-identity kind of dissolves for a second, right? Like when you first get a new job, then your whole environment changes and your self-identity kind of dismantles itself and you're able to kind of form a new identity, right? And that's when most of the time people make a lot of changes in their lives. And I've been really thinking about this, and I've been really thinking about how I can use this idea to make it much easier on myself. So the idea that I've been really messing around with is this idea that instead of using my conscious, the very top of this iceberg, what if I can just change who I am as a person and move into this new identity instead of trying to change my old identity? Just move into this and just not even use willpower at that point. So that's kind of what I'm been dealing with and trying to figure out. And I think I figured out a few ways to kind of go from this old identity to this new identity. And I've used two people to really help me with that. And the first dude, his name is Jordan Peterson, and he wrote this course called he wrote a course called the Future Authoring Program and Past Authoring Program. And basically what, in this program, what we do is, what we went through is, you write the story of your life, who you were, from like, the first 4 years of your life to like then the 8 and then 12. Basically, you split your life into like these epochs, and then for each epoch, you write down your the major events that happened and how you interpreted those events before. And then what you do is you reinterpret those events to empower you to move forward. So if you interpreted your first, maybe your childhood as you being a victim, then you can reinterpret those as like, because I went through these like terrible situations or unpleasant situations, you were able to now do this. So you kind of, instead of becoming a victim of your past, you empower yourself so you can move forward. And then the next thing, next part of this program is the Future Authoring Program, where you go from talking about your past into talking about your future. So now that we kind of thought about our past and reinterpreted it in a way that empowers us, now we want to move towards a future where we want to actually be. And by doing that, you can create a direction. Instead of like having a bunch of goals, you create a direction of where your life will be going. All right, so that's the first tool, the Future Authoring Program and the Past Authoring Program by this dude named Jordan Peterson. It's like $20. You can get it. Now, the next thing that I'm using right now to like fundamentally shift my like subconscious identity is doing affirmations. Now, this has been something that a lot of successful people have been doing for thousands of years, and pretty much anyone that, so I have this wall, I call it the wall of goats, and they're like the 100 most influential humans like in the history of the world. And I've been kind of studying these guys, and something that I notice a pattern is all of them are journalers. They like write, they have a journal, and they're like put their ideas down into a journal. And they also, most of them, I would say like half of them, practice affirmations. Now, affirmations are a way of programming your subconscious mind to have certain beliefs and thoughts and ideas. Now, this really works out because whether you know it or not, people and companies and society is always programming your subconscious. And you don't really have a choice of how this works, because whenever you go outside, you'll see marketers and commercials and TV shows and even people just talking to you about things, and your subconscious just integrates that into your identity over time. And it's kind of like through osmosis. So you're walking through the world, and then all these messages come into your mind, and however you process it in your conscious, it doesn't really matter. Your subconscious is going to absorb it in a way that later on is going to be like reflective of your thoughts and beliefs. So this affirmations is a kind of way to kind of battle this random programming that happens when you're in society. So instead of just like going through life being programmed by other people's intentions and ideas, affirmations are a way of programming your mind to have the ideas and beliefs that you actually need and will empower you to like get to that future place where you want to be. And you know, there's a bunch of ways to do it, but I found that there's a few hacks that have helped me in this like last couple weeks where I've been trying to do affirmations. Now, the best way that I found to do this is to write down, just look up affirmations on the internet and then rewrite those affirmations so it doesn't feel cheesy when you say it to yourself. So basically you're gonna go to the internet, find some affirmations that will help you go to your goal. Like if it's like, you know, sticking to eating healthy food, then it could be an affirmations like, I love my body, I want to eat better food, eating better food helps me feel empowered, or whatever, all this different stuff, right? Now, that's good, and you should like read that like in the morning after you like after you write all these affirmations. Every morning you will read that to yourself, and at night you will read that to yourself. But what I found was that doesn't really work because it's kind of hard for me to implement all the time. So what I've done is I took all those affirmations that I've created, and I took my own voice and I just recorded it on my phone, and then in the morning and at night and during the day, whenever I have nothing else to do, I'll throw on those affirmations and they'll just play in the background as I'm like going about doing, you know, things that really don't require that much thought. Another thing that's really important when you're doing affirmations is not just the words, but to actually visualize what you're doing. So like whenever you say something, you want to visualize that thing happening. So if you say I'm trying to eat more healthy food, or I'm trying to eat less food and not binge and things like that, you can visualize yourself doing that and visualize how your body's gonna feel if it's eating healthy things, if it's exercising, if it's, you know, waking up in the morning, if it's meditating, doing all those things that you want to be doing. If you visualize those with your affirmations, and your subconscious will go from this like old self-identity of like being a fat, lazy person to this new identity of being like a determined person who has iron will and able to just like do whatever it needs to do to get to its goals. And yeah, I hope I know this video was kind of weird, but the lighting is wonderful. As you can see, the sun is hitting right in my face. But hopefully you guys like this. If you do, give it a subscribe and like the video, share with your friends if you found this useful. I love you. Talk to you later. Bye.